Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another really interesting combination to try out, and I think it's going to give us a pretty nasty looking pattern. We've seen a couple really impressive patterns from these shells so far, and this choke, for being a little bit old school, has already shown us a very nice pattern the last time we tested it a week or two ago now, so I definitely have some high hopes for this combination. But as for those shells I brought today, I got out some more of the Winchester Longbeard XR loads, but these ones are the 12 gauge 3.5 inch 2-ounce payload of 4-shot, moving about 1,200 feet per second. These 3.5 inch Longbeards have been nothing short of impressive so far. Of course, it's a Longbeard shell, so that's kind of to be expected most of the time. However, the 3.5 inch ones have given us some of the best patterns we've seen out of any Longbeard lead shell so far, so we know we've got a good loading here for sure. And as for the shotgun we're going to run them through, I brought out the Mossberg 835 Ulti-Mag. It's got a 28-inch barrel on it, but for the choke, we've got something a little bit interesting. That being an old Hi-Viz LongSpur turkey choke. Yes, this is the same Hi-Viz that makes a lot of fiber optic sights nowadays, but at some point, I believe roughly mid-2000s era, they made some chokes as well. This one is a 705 constriction, so right in the typical extra full choke range for an 835 that's overboard. And we did test these a week or two ago now with some Kinetic Gunworks TSS loads, and it was super impressive. So I've got some high expectations for this combo as well. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. The turkey target's at 40 yards, and I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see how the old Hi-Viz 705 LongSpur can do with a load of lead Longbeards today. Should look pretty impressive, but let's take our shot and see what we get. Alright, that shell gave us 1271 through the chrono. The box claim is 1200, so we were a little bit above that. However, from what I can remember, these shells are typically between 1240 and 1260 as far as velocity goes. So we're definitely not out of the realm of reality here. That is pretty close to what we typically see. But how did they actually perform down there through that old Hi-Viz choke at 40? Let's go check it out and see. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and we definitely got some pretty interesting results. Do we have a dead bird? Yes, absolutely we do. There are a couple right through pretty much the eyeball there, and a number of them right through the middle of his neck. So yeah, that is a pretty tight-looking little core there for a lead 4 load. And there's nowhere left or right on that paper that he can move to and get away from you. So absolutely a 40-yard capable combination all day long. Now, looking at the pattern as a whole, it is definitely not what we typically have seen from these 3.5 inch 4s. Usually they give us a really tight overall pattern with most of our pellets within that turkey target itself, along with the usual really tight, really hot central core area to it. And that is what we saw. Our core is very tight there, especially within that 5-inch ring. That's a lot of pellets right through there, so it would absolutely crush a turkey at 40. But around the edges, we pick up a lot of little void areas and a lot of little splotches of shot. You can see a number of them on that turkey target, and outside of that we have a number of little stragglers and flyers and a little bit of a hot zone right there off the right edge of the turkey target, and a number more flyers and stuff way down there at the bottom of the paper. So it is not a very even or very uniform pattern, which kind of surprises me. These shells have always given us a pretty tight and very uniform pattern, and it's not really what we saw here. We had that same really hot core, but the rest of the pattern kind of fell apart a little bit. Now that is a 705 constriction, which for an 835 is right down there in your extra full choke type of range, since they are overboard to a 10 gauge bore size. But these 3.5 inch Longbeard 4s seem like they might prefer a little bit tighter of a choke to clean up those edges just a little bit better. We've definitely seen much better patterns out of it, and I'm a little surprised considering that the build quality and the machining work and stuff on that old Hi-Viz is excellent. So on one hand, we absolutely have a deadly 40-yard turkey pattern there, but considering what we typically see, that is not anything super impressive from these shells. So a little bit of a surprising result here today. And who knows, this could be just down to the newer Longbeard shells having some quality control or consistency issues. I've never personally ran into a problem with this specific box of 3.5 inch Longbeard shells, so I think it's unlikely, but it's not completely unheard of either. So not exactly what I was expecting to see. Would I use that combo if it's what I had? Yeah, absolutely. But it's not the best we've seen from these shells either. And once again, just kind of goes to show that lead 4s can be a little finicky sometimes, and they really tend to prefer one or two chokes or constrictions over the others. And here's the wad from that shell. Very typical Winchester Longbeard type of stuff. But the 3.5-inch ones are red, and they are a slight bit longer than the standard 3-inch ones. Nothing special to see about it. It performed very much like it typically does. You do have a little bit of that buffer material stuck down in the bottom there, but that's nothing unusual either. Overall, nothing really out of the ordinary here that would tell us why we saw a little bit of inconsistency in that pattern. The wad itself looks very much normal. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about that pattern right there? Definitely a little bit on the fence. It's a little bit interesting. That middle 5 to 8 inches or so is very nasty for a lead 4. There's no question about that. That turkey may still not have a head left at 40 yards. So that I really like as far as our core goes. But as soon as we get outside of that 5 to 8 inch circle right there in the middle, we definitely start getting a little bit splotchy, and we've got a number of flyers around the edges. So it's not exactly what I expected to see. We know these are some very impressive performing shells usually for us. So 705, although very much a standard turkey choke type of constriction for an 835, might just be a touch on the open side for them. Pattern doesn't really strike me as being blown out, and we know they've performed very impressive through tighter chokes than a 705. So I don't know. It could be just that particular choke or that constriction just not really being the best performer with these particular shells, or we could be running into a little bit of Longbeard XR inconsistency with their quality control. Could be a little bit of both, could be either one. I don't know. Still not a terrible turkey pattern for a lead 4 at 40 yards. I'd hunt with it if it's what I had, but we have seen better from these shells and from this choke. So potentially not the perfect combination here. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the Longbeard 3.5-inch 4s? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is that a combo that you would hunt with, or would you prefer to see it a little more even or a little tighter than that? And what other shells or choke combos do you want to see with those Longbeard 3.5-inch 4s or that old Hi-Viz 705? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be down in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.